You're listening to Deliberate Living, a podcast that inspires, empowers, and encourages listeners to live life more authentically. My name is Holly Priestley, and I'm a full-time nomad and creator who has been living in my 1997 Ford van since January 1st of 2019. I travel the United States with my dog, learning how to live with more authenticity. I explore different ways people choose to ditch the prescribed life we've all been sold and live on their terms, finding freedom and happiness however they choose. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Deliberate Living Podcast. I am your host, Holly Priestley, and this week I am doing a solo episode, and I'm going to tackle a topic and some questions that I have been getting kind of a lot lately. I'm not quite sure what is happening in the universe right now to make people send me these questions all of a sudden. I think maybe it has something to do with the state of the world and the state of the planet, and maybe we all just need a little bit more self-therapy in our lives. But I've been getting a ton of questions lately about my journaling practice. I talked a little bit about it in my episode on morning routines, and I'm not exactly sure what number of episode that is. I should have checked before I started recording, but I'll leave a link to it in the show notes below. So I talk a little bit about my journaling routine in my morning routine episode, and this episode is going to be specifically about journaling, why I do it, how I do it, any suggestions, recommendations I have for you guys, and then just some general questions that I have been asked repeatedly about my journaling addiction, my journaling habit, my journaling therapy. So before we get started, I want to take a moment to say thank you to this week's sponsor, Rerouted. They are a digital app on your phone, online, where you can buy, sell, and donate used outdoor gear. We all know that being outdoors is another form of therapy. I think it is a very powerful one. If you haven't been outside today, maybe go for a walk around the block. Leave your phone at home and just enjoy being outside. They are committed to sustainability and improving access to the outdoors for all people. If you click the link in the show notes, you will get 10% off of your first purchase through the app. And if you are looking to offload some of your outdoor gear and do some purging, get in contact with me directly and I can help you get 10% off of your first 5 sales with them as well. All right, and so back to the episode, we're talking all about journaling. So the first question is, why might someone want to journal? And the answer to that is there are so many reasons somebody might want to journal. Maybe you want to have a catalog of your days in your life and you know what you did and how you felt and who you hung out with and where you went and what you saw and all of those things. It might give you something to look back on later. It might be a good way for you to track your progress if you're learning something new and you want to journal about it, or if you're working on your mental health or physical health and you want to journal about it. It'd be a good way to look back and see your progress, see where you were before, see how you were feeling, or potentially, how you handled a situation before and how you might want to handle it in the future, etc. I've mentioned multiple times that I use journaling a lot for self-therapy. When I can have a conversation with myself and I can dig a little deeper into some of the feelings that I'm having or reactions that I'm having, or if I have a decision to make and I'm not sure which way to go, writing it down and helping myself therapize the situation can be very helpful. Some people might want to get their thoughts out of their head so that they can get on with their lives. If you have so much dialogue happening in your head, between your monkey mind and your, scared inner child, or, all the things that the world is bombarding you with that you should be doing, but there's different things that you want to be doing. And there's just so much going on in your head. Being able to write it down and get it out of your headspace can really help you just move on with life and tackle what's in front of you in the moment. Some people might want to journal so that they can have conversations in a place that they might not be able to have conversations in person. So maybe they want to talk to somebody who is no longer a part of their life, whether they have moved away or not been friends, or maybe they even died. Journaling can be a really good way to have a conversation with someone that you can't have in real life. And then, a lot of writers like to journal because it helps them prime the pump for writing later in the day. If you can just start getting words out, they flow a little bit easier as the day goes on. As a writer, I say it all the time, and I can definitely attest that words are hard. And so getting them started, getting them out of your head and helping you, figure out what's coming next can be very helpful. So these are just a couple of the reasons somebody might want to journal. There are so many other reasons. And if you're a journaler or you're thinking about journaling and you have reasons that I did not mention here, come tell me what they are so that I can share them with the world even more. There's a million reasons and they can all benefit from journaling. The next question is, what does your journaling routine look like? And how do you actually journal and make it happen and not get distracted? And so these are really, really popular questions, or at least popular, if not direct questions, they are feedback that I get from other people. Oh, I tried to journal, but. And so for me, my journaling practice, as I said in my morning routines episode, I generally like to journal very, very first thing in the morning. I want to do it before I do literally anything else. I don't even want to take my phone off of airplane mode. I just want to journal first. I don't make tea first. I don't do anything. I journal first. And so this for me is part self-discipline, part experimentation. And it's also knowing myself and setting myself up for success, which comes from self-discipline and from experimentation. So my normal routine, journal first thing when I wake up. Some days I don't get to it first thing. Right now in this season, specifically because it is summer, and I need to run first thing in the morning sometimes because it just gets too hot later in the day. So sometimes I'll come back after my run and try and journal. It's much, much harder for me then. And so for me, when I journal first thing in the morning before I go running, if I'm able to, that means that my phone stays on airplane mode. Because, it was on airplane mode all night for me. And if I have my phone available to me and I'm getting the rings, dings and things, and I'm getting notifications and stuff, I will get distracted and I will want to check my phone. And then journaling won't be as fruitful and it will take a lot longer for me to accomplish. Or I'll give up halfway in the middle and that's not good either. So I leave my phone on airplane mode and I just start writing to get it going before I get too distracted. Right now, most of my journaling starts with, here's what happened yesterday, here's what I want to do today, and then I'll usually get into some kind of, here's what I need to talk about, here are some feelings I'm having, here's a situation that I want to dissect, etc. So my journaling is kind of in 3 parts right now. Again, it evolves over time. Right now, as of this recording, it starts with, here's what happened yesterday, it goes into, here's how I want today to go, or here's what I have to do today, or here's what I expect, or whatever, and then there's always feelings and stuff like that, and that's where the good juicy stuff happens for me. And so sometimes to facilitate journaling, I'll put on some calming music. I like the happy piano music playlist on Spotify. Sometimes I just listen to the birds outside, but again, I try to reduce distractions as much as possible. And so my suggestion for somebody else who wants to get into journaling and maybe doesn't know how would be to experiment with it and keep it really loose and flowy and let yourself off the hook a lot and just see what works for you and what doesn't work for you based on your personality, your needs, your goals, your lifestyle, etc. Don't put any pressure on yourself in unrealistic ways. Don't commit to journaling every single day and then, beat yourself up if you miss one and then just, throw the journal in the trash and not even try again. Journal when it feels right and when you have something to say and when you have something that you need to work through or, something that you want to remember or think about. It doesn't have to be a daily practice like it is for me. It doesn't have to be a weekly practice. I find the best benefits for me when it is a daily practice, but some days I just can't get to it and I can't beat myself up over that. Otherwise, I'll never get started again. The next question is about my tools for journaling, and I think that this is a good spot to kind of slide it in here after talking about the routine and the process. And honestly, the tools that I would recommend for journaling are whatever it takes to make you want to write. So some people want to use a fancy notebook and a pen. It feels special and it feels inspiring and motivational and it makes them want to pick up their pen and start writing if they have a really pretty setup. And for other people, that specialness can actually be a little scary and they don't want to use it in case they mess up or write ugly or the pen explodes or, something happens. They put too much expectations on it if it's special. So they might like something that is really casual and totally not precious in order to get their work done. So that is 100% up to you guys. For me personally, I use a basic spiral bound notebooks like you would in school, like a 3-subject or a 5-subject notebook. Personally, I like the 3-subject. The 5-subject, it has so much of those like little cardboard pieces with the folders, and that gets in the way. I'm not picky about my notebooks because I know, like, I've been doing this for years. Like, I have notebooks stacked on my bookshelf, just years and years and years of writing, and I just need to get it out there. So for me, it doesn't need to be expensive. It needs to be cheap. What I do get picky about is the pen that I use. My mom has always been a journaler as well, and she journals with a standard ballpoint pen because she likes the way the paper crinkles when you write on it. And I love watching that. I love watching the crinkly paper, and you can see which pages have been used, and it's very satisfying to look at. Personally, for my journaling, using a ballpoint pen that you have to press down on that hard hurts my hands, and it makes me cramp up, and then I don't want to journal because I'm in pain. So I like a pen that flows really easily so that I can just like write nice and smooth, and I'm not fighting against the ink or anything, and I'm not cramping up at the end of it. My favorite pen for journaling is a Pilot G207, maybe an 05. It flows really easily. It's a nice fine tip pen. It lets me write faster. It doesn't hurt, and it's available in most like grocery stores, office supply stores, dollar stores, pretty much everywhere. Pilot G207 or 05. Your tools are going to vary, and like I said, with the routine aspect of it, experiment, see what works for you. Get something that you think will work, try it out. If you're finding that the notebook or the pen is instilling a sense of avoidance, dig a little deeper, figure out what that is. Is it too precious? Is it too special? Or on the converse, is it like too boring? And you just don't want to use it, or, those spiral bound notebooks are kind of big. Like, is that intimidating? If you're just getting started, do you want to start with like a really small notebook that, you feel like you're filling up pages faster and it can be more satisfying? Or did you pick a journal that was too small and you have so much to say and you feel like you're just going through pages so fast? It really just depends on you, your personality, what you're journaling about, and how your mind works, what motivates you. There is absolutely zero chance that there is a one right set of tools for every person, for every writer, for every journaler. Whatever receptacle you need for your word vessel, like, works for you, is what you should be using to journal with. The next question is more about the content of journaling, and it is, do you journal about something specific, and do you use prompts? So as I mentioned briefly before, my journaling process right now is more, here's what I did yesterday, here's what I plan to do today, here are the issues that I'm currently dealing with that I want to write out, think out, self-therapize about. So usually 80% of the time, maybe less, maybe 70 to 80% of the time, I do not use prompts. I just write about what happened the day before, what's happening today, and something that's going on. Sometimes I will get to the point in my journaling where I've already said what happened yesterday, what's happening today, and then I know I want to dig deeper, I know I want to journal more, I know I want to spend more time in that headspace, but I don't necessarily have like a specific issue that I want to address, and then I will use prompts. And there are a lot of places you can find prompts. A lot of the books that I read have journal prompts in them, whether it's like direct and deliberate, here are journal prompts, or just more in the content. I'll read something and I'll be like, oh, that's a good point. I really want to think about that in the future. And to keep these prompts, I will put screenshots in my phone. I'll take a picture of them, and that way I don't have to turn my phone off airplane mode to access them. And I can see what prompts in the past have appealed to me. I'll scroll through them and I'll find like, okay, this one resonates with me today, and I will write on that. Sometimes I will be very deliberately trying to process through something or learn something or deal with an issue, and I will spend so much of my journaling time just on that issue, and I notice that I like talk myself in circles and circles and circles and circles, and eventually maybe I'll come to a conclusion. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's enough just to get it out there. But the prompts can be a really good place to start if you want to write, you want to journal, you want to have this inner self-dialogue, but you're not exactly sure what to say. Like, I am definitely pro prompt. I just, don't use them as often as I just write about what happened in the previous day. Huge fan of prompts. If you're following me on Instagram, I have already started and will continue to share journaling prompts sporadically around, what's going on in my life or what questions, requests, etc. I get from y'all. So if you have specific issues or topics or whatever that you want to journal about and you need a little nudge in the right direction, you need some prompts, some questions, send me those and I will do my best to create some prompts for y'all around that. The next question is, do you reread your journal entries after you write them? And the answer is sometimes. Sometimes I do. I generally don't. But that's not a never. When I spend time working on my memoir, I will definitely go back to my journals from that time period to see what kinds of things happened and where my headspace was in that moment. Because for my memoir, I want to write about where I was then. And now I'm a few years out from then, and so my headspace is different. And when I look back on the experiences, my memories might be skewed, my feelings might be skewed because of where I am now. So when it comes to certain situations, when I'm writing about my experience for clients, for articles, or for my memoir, I will go back and I'll reread them. Or sometimes I'll find myself having the same trigger or the same feeling or the same discomfort around a situation that I thought I had dealt with. And sometimes then I'll go back and find a journal entry where I talked about whatever that issue was so that I can kind of compare and contrast and be like, where is the sign of growth here? Why am I still dealing with this? Like, what do I need to learn from this situation? But most often I don't reread them. And I know that some very popular journaling trains of thought are not ever to reread your journaling. You just write it down and you put it away, or you write it down and you tear it up and throw it away, or you write it down and you burn it. Or, maybe you write it on a digital surface and then you delete it. I don't do that. I cannot do that. I could not fathom doing that. But at the same time, I don't necessarily go back and reread all of my journal entries either. But if that makes you feel better and you don't want to keep whatever you're journaling and you're literally just like getting it out of you and then you just want to get the fuck rid of it, that can be really ceremonial and powerful too. So that's another option in terms of how to journal and whether or not you should reread them. And so the final question is there some measure of journaling that is appropriate? A certain number of pages a day or for X number of minutes a day? And the answer here is no. There is no minimum requirement. There is no maximum requirement. If you want to journal for 5 minutes, that's better than nothing. If you want to journal for 12 hours a day, you probably have some issues that you need to work through, and fucking more power to you. Please keep doing that. That sounds healthy and reasonable. I have my own goals for my journaling, and just as with the journaling practice itself, these evolve and shift over the years. I used to just want to journal at all, to get started, to get it going. And then I decided I wanted to journal at least a page, at least the front side of a page. And then I wanted to do just the front and the back. And these days I'm up to 3 pages, so front, back, front. And I don't always meet that, and I am trying right now, especially the phase that I'm in life right now is kind of wild and a little crazy, and so I'm trying to be very gentle with myself. I don't always get my 3 pages in, but I do at least try to journal because I know that it really helps my mental health to do it. And depending on the day, I can crank out my journaling in 40 minutes to an hour, and sometimes it takes 2 hours for me to do it. And I know that that's not possible for everybody. Not everybody can spend 40 minutes journaling or 2 hours journaling. So like I said, if you're just getting started with it, or you just don't have the time, 5 minutes is better than nothing. It really will help your mental health, and it'll benefit a lot of different aspects of your life. Huge proponent of journaling over here. I think it can be so good for you. For me, it really helps me slow down my thoughts. I think very, very quickly. And I write much slower, and I type somewhere in the middle. So being able to type out or write out my thoughts on paper. I'll pick different mediums too, just to touch on that a little bit. Sometimes my brain is moving so fast that I have to type, and I can't handwrite a journal entry because it's just moving so fast, and I need to like just furiously type it out and get it out of my head so that I can then deal with it. And sometimes I really need, most days, I really need the slow down, like, handwriting. And I still write pretty fast, pretty messy. I don't know that most people could read my handwriting. Half the time I can't read my handwriting. But the getting it out of my head and the getting it on paper helps me slow down. Sometimes I don't know what I think until I write it down. And then I'll just be like writing down kind of stream of conscious, and I'll write something and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't know that's how I felt about that. Or, oh crap, I never made that connection before. And that's one of the most beautiful things about it. And I tell you what, I've gotten so much like self-therapy out of journaling, and it can be free, because you can acquire things to write on for free. You can find little notebooks like places, or notepads like in hotels, or even napkins somewhere. Paper is pretty easy to find. Pens are pretty easy to find. Would not recommend stealing the last pen from your local coffee shop when you write your receipt or whatever, but in general, journaling can be free. It can also be cheap. It can also be expensive. But when it comes to actual therapy with an actual therapist, journaling is a lot cheaper, and therapy can be cost prohibitive. So would recommend journaling for that purpose especially. So I think that wraps up most of the questions that I had received so far. Again, if you have additional questions or prompt requests or anything like that, send me a note. Let me know. If you are a journaler, let me know how that's going, what your particular routine is, how you like going about it, etc. And as always, thank you so much for being here and being a part of the show. If you've made it to the end of the show, that is awesome and incredible, and I am so grateful for you. If you could just go ahead and give it a like, a thumbs up, a 5 stars, whatever it is on the platform that you are consuming it, that helps us get seen by more people. If you know someone who is thinking about journaling, wants to journal, send them this episode in particular. And if you want to help support the show financially, I do have a Patreon specifically for Deliberate Living, where you can get behind the scenes, you can get extra long episodes, you can get access to the rapid fire question mini-sodes that I have with my previous guests. And as always, I hope you guys are subscribed and hit the notifications, whatever, find out when our next episode is coming out. I hope you tune in next week for another excellent episode. Bye!